Rohan Patel, comic book movie. Hey Joe, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
I love Top Gun so much, man. It was so awesome.
Oh,
Uh,
great. So glad to
uh,
hear
and
it.
and I know you worked with Tom before on Oblivion, which Oblivion's a really underrated movie too. And
Thank
so,
you.
what initially brought you on board to do Top Gun Maverick? Where had you already been talking about Tom and we're working together again, or did it develop like later in the
Uh,
process?
Tom says we talked about it a little bit on Oblivion. I think it was more in a very abstract sort of way. But this one started with Jerry Bruckheimer sending me a script they were working on, which I read and had some, you know, very specific kind of ideas about what direction to take it. And I went and met with him, and he liked kind of what I was thinking about, and thought we should go and pitch it to Tom directly, which we did. We flew to Paris where he was shooting Mission Impossible. And I got like 20 minutes of his time between setups to pitch my take on the movie. And I think he really liked the character journey of Maverick and what I was pitching for this film, and the relationship with Rooster being the kind of core of the story, and how I wanted to shoot it. Obviously, all practically, which I knew he would be a requirement for him. He liked the title I had, which was Top Gun Maverick, and where we find Maverick at the beginning of this story, which I like the idea of finding him in the world of testing, cutting edge aircraft. And he picked up the phone and called the head of the studio and said, "We're going to make this movie." And that was the beginning of this whole thing.
Awesome, that's so cool. And so this is like a complete behemoth of a film, and you've done aerial sequences before, but nothing quite like this. So like, what kind of, after you get the job and like you go through all that with Tom, it's like, what kind of pre-production were you doing yourself? It's like, I got to figure out how to film. I know you talked about you looked at a lot of GoPro footage at CinemaCon. So like,
Yep.
what kind of like prep were you doing to like, these are the jets we need to use, or these are like how we can film it, this is how they'll look?
The first thing I did is I called up the Navy, and I got myself on an aircraft carrier out at sea.
Yeah.
I went out to the Teddy Roosevelt and got connected with some naval advisors, technical advisors, guys who had ex-F-14 Tomcat pilots, Super Hornet pilots, and just started diving into their world, because I knew the character journey we wanted to tell, but I just needed to familiarize myself with what it meant to be a naval aviator and pick their brains on what the mission could be and how difficult it could be and what the training would be. And from there, we just started building this story, one layer at a time. It took about 15 months to to get the draft in shape and to figure out how to get these cameras inside the cockpit capture for real.
Wow. And I read that you find like at the end of the production, you had collected over 400, 500 hours of footage. So like, how long did it initially take you to like even like form like an assembly cut to show the studio, or just like, this is going to look very cool?
Yeah, we were just assembling as we went along. Most of the aerial footage was captured at the end. So we started with the ground story, and all the aerial sequences were just storyboards in the middle of it. But we built it up as we went along, and refined and honed it into the movie that you see now.
Awesome. And like you said, like the movie is very emotional, and I don't think a lot of people are expecting that before they go in. And but you have such a perfect cast. But I thought like the sort of gem was like you cast Jennifer Connelly as Peggy, and then these are two like icons of the '80s, Connelly and Cruise. So like, what was it about? Like, I know you worked with her on Only the Brave, which is also another really great movie. So it's like, what did you see? Like, it's like, I got to put these two in the same frame. And then like, what was that casting process like?
Jennifer, just, she has this incredible emotional intelligence that she always brings to her characters. And I needed someone that was a great actor that could go, play in scenes with Tom, but also provide what Penny Benjamin provides to Maverick, in his journey on this story. And yeah, like you said, they both have worked for almost 40 years, but somehow have never crossed paths, never been in the same film. So I just felt like they'd been a tremendous couple on screen, and like you said, to put two actors of that caliber together, it turned out, better than I could have ever hoped.
Yeah, it's perfect. And then like I want to talk about the third act so much, but I don't want to give spoilers. But it's so perfect. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. But
Okay.
I do want to talk about the opening sequence when he goes to Mach 10, Mach 11. It's just like,
Yep.
what was different about that sequence than the rest of the film? Because it's shot very like that one shot of him, like I don't know how to describe it, but the one shot of him when you can see like the trail in the clouds, it's just so
Yeah.
beautiful. So what was that process? What was that
Yeah. Well,
aircraft?
that was, very much inspired by like The Right Stuff and Chuck, the character of Chuck Yeager in that film, these test pilots who go out there and do things that have never been tried before in this cutting edge machinery. And it just felt like it exemplified the idea of pushing the envelope, which is what Maverick does as a character. So for me, just being kind of an aviation buff and always loving that world, the idea to give people a peek behind the curtain of secret projects, I worked with Skunk Works, which is the division of Lockheed that actually makes these type of aircraft, because I wanted it to feel as real as possible. So every detail of that is based on reality, the way the aircraft functions, the way it looks, all the switches and stick are actually taken out of real experimental aircraft. We built a full-scale model, a full-scale mock-up of the Dark Star aircraft that you see Maverick in the movie. I just wanted to show the audience that, in the first few minutes, it definitely feels like a Top Gun movie, but once he gets in that jet, I also wanted you to know that we're telling a whole new story, and that sequence kind of helps set that tone up for the movie.
Everything at a completely different level. And so like the you have like this very emotional scene around the middle of the movie between the two icons, Maverick and Iceman, and Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise are both so perfect in that scene. And and you end it with the perfect note when it's like, let's not ruin a perfect moment. But so what was that day like filming with Val and Tom and seeing them back together, and Iceman and Maverick, and it's like 1986 again?
Yeah, no, it was incredible to see them both playing, two actors of that caliber playing their most iconic roles, reunited on screen for the first time since since Top Gun. Obviously, very emotional scene, very emotional day. They were both in great spirits. They have so much respect for each other as actors. But it was a very memorable, emotional day. And what I'm excited is people can see, Val and Tom, two actors at the very top of their game, just doing an incredibly emotional scene.
Awesome. And like I was saying, like the cast, you have John Hamm, Ed Harris, their connections with Tom are so funny. And then but you also cast these like I think 8 or 12 wonderful like young Top Gun pilots. And like I'm assuming you skipped over my self tape, but there's not a single wink link in this cast. So it's like, what were you and Tom and Chris looking for in these young actors that were like, these are Top Gun actors?
We looked at hundreds of actors. My casting director, Denise Chamian, pulled a bunch of faces that I hadn't seen before, which is always very exciting. And, ones that she felt had a lot of promise. We did a lot of auditions, basically narrowed it down to what I thought were like the top 2 or 3 for each role. And then I sat down with, Jerry and Tom and watched their tapes and, really drew on Jerry and Tom's experience, decades of experience of casting, some of the most famous actors of all time, to kind of find the perfect person for that role. And luckily, when we put them all together as a group, they just hit it off immediately. The chemistry was so natural. And so what you see on screen was happening off screen as well. It was just every day working with that group of people was really, really great experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Joe. I saw it at CinemaCon last week, and
good.
it blew my whole face away. It was just so awesome. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.